coming in here, so we're going to get started. Now, what October 6th, just what we have about Friday, 5 more days to budget 2020. What investor can expect from budget 2020 and what sector will contribute to the budget 2020 in Malaysia, which I will talk about here. Okay, let's talk about budget 2020. But before we get to budget 2020, we must talk about a bit about what we have on the older budget, the budget 2019. Credible Malaysia, dynamic economy and prosperity market. I think that's the old one. Again, the focus has always been to control costs and spending. I think you all heard it before. Ever since the Pakatan Harapan won the general election 14, they inherit a lot of debt, right? And the traps amount to about almost $1 trillion ringgit, and that's really expiring. So what they're trying to do is trying to bring down. I think some of you may also hear that recent Khazanah debt has been brought down from 50 plus billion to 40 plus billion. So a lot of these are really in terms of controlling the cost and making sure that whatever we had are manageable around. I think that's pretty good too. We have to give a thumbs up to the current Pakatan Harapan government for what it does. So at the same time, 2019 also locus for savings in the debt government, same thing. 2020, not much going to be different in here. There are a lot of saving from renegotiation for MR2 project, all the China mega project, ECR, HSR, and the list goes on. The SST, which is has been a sticking neck for the Pakatan Harapan in here, and now you all know that there is talks because it collected less, I think close to about 14 billion less tax than what it should, the SST compared to what GST, and now they're just sort of talking about GST, but I do think it will come, but maybe they will probably push it to after the general election 15, because anytime when you start talking about GST running along with SST, you will piss off a lot of the what we call voters who actually voted back in general election 14. But you know that our current Prime Minister Dr. Mahathir did also mention they didn't know the kind of shit that we are in, and that's what a lot of things are doing. Also, a lot of the new tax will be coming in, especially those who intend to do a lot of purchase like Netflix, Lazada, and really governments are even going for private school registration and those with extraordinary wealth. So that's what we're going. Also, loss of revenue, anything that the government can get on, they are looking for it. Now, this October 11, what we see here is our beloved YB Finance Minister Lim Guan Ning will talk about the budget 2020, and some area will be focused is for the Rakyat. I think a lot of them are 75% of the B14. I do understand is Bumi Putra, so a lot of this has been put into address, just like this newspaper I just showed you just now. SPV, the Share Prosperity Vision 2030, is to address this B40, the bottom 40, which is really one of the big voters, and they are looking into it. So adequate Medicare, good education, remuneration jobs, decent home, freedom from unfair competition, monopolies. I'm just going to touch on that one. So likely to be the highlight of 2020. This was delivered back in June 2019, was the consultation preview by the Finance Minister. Insurance, a lot of insurance been talked about, the covering the mess. And so labor and employment. One of the things they really have to address this is the higher youth unemployment, because this round, even in Tanjung Piam, they were talking about the youth 18 and above coming in to do voting, but I don't think it's happening this time. EC will not allow it, the election commission, but they are coming in. So this is a fine line. They have to start really as a politician, they have to address the labor employment, which is quite high, around 10.9 in 2000. The reduce of monopoly in telco broadband, it's ongoing. You can see as soon as last year when they start announcing that the telco charges for the high-speed broadband has been brought down, and you could see the stocks like DG, Maxis, and also Telecom Malaysia really took hit, and huge market capitalization has dropped. That's the same thing which I've talked about slightly on the for my Facebook on the zero commission. right? The zero commission, it's happening in US. TD Ameritrade, Interactive Broker, this Charles Schwab's, and the other one, the Morgan Stanley, are reducing the so-called zero commission. So I did poke around some of the local industry, my ex-colleague inside there. They say it's likely to come, but that's going to be something will be addressed by Bursa Malaysia, which is also going to get a lot of the loss of revenue. And what happens of those 5 big broker houses in US has a huge drop in market capitalization, just the same as telco. So we are seeing a lot of centralization of businesses when majority monopoly has been taken out, and that seems to be, and that's why also we have Grab, been fined for 86 million, and not because they want to reduce the monopoly, which is so there's something which is actually good the government is doing. Not forgetting behind is the focus industry 4.0 digitizing SME, which is the government was going to focus a lot. It's about 6.5 billion, big data, robotics and AI, and this is where governments are coming in to do a lot of guaranteed. They're not going to be dishing out free money, which they used to do in the past. What they do, they will act as a guarantee, which means if you don't have a collateral or thing, then you can apply for it. Therefore, meaning you pay less in terms of interest rate. So it does help a bit on the expenses for a lot of businesses. Tech funding, 50 million for equity, crowdfunding, and so peer-to-peer. I think that's still ongoing. This is an area where the SC are looking into growing the digital fintech area, which is our company, TradeVSA, happen to be. All right, now Malaysia, looking at right, is ranked 22nd in terms of competitiveness and 15th place, the best place to do in 2019. Having said that, that's not something that we should be really proud of. Now, let me just get my laser pointer here, okay? Now, if you look at this, right now what we see here, you can see the net foreign direct flow has really been flowing out, and those of you who are members would also know in my daily sort of call advice to my paid members, I also telling that look, the foreign funds flow, they can see it from the TradeVSA dashboard system. You can see also foreign funds are not flowing in. As a matter of fact, as of last I think 1 week, we're seeing almost close to about 500 million ringgit of outflow from the KLFCI flowing out. So that tells you why our KLCI cannot go higher. It cannot go too lower because everyone sort of left. Whatever leave there, it's basically the KWAP money, the EPF money, right? And the LTAT, for the army force. So there's not much of a, the institutional money is all in there. Even Khazanah money is all in there. So there's not much of the market's going to fall that much. So again, ranking 22nd, being competitive, that's not good. We should get down to where around Singapore and US, around the top 5. I think that's important to do. Now, also looking at where the US-China trade war that we see, the spillover, one area that will do very well, if you look in terms of the sectors that we have in Malaysia, all right, 3 biggest sectors that tend to do well. One is the plastics, okay, the SKP resources, the VS, then you got that's the plastics, which is actually doing the Dyson, right? And I think I wrote an article on VS on the Dyson in there. And then there's another one is the electrical and electronic engineering, which is where you get the Inari, the Unisem, the Globetronics, the AIA, no, was that the ATA Ames, the Emulus. Those are the other area. Then you got a bit on the technology, which is like Elsoft, was the MYEG. So those are more domestic driven. And then finally is the oil and gas. So those are the 4 areas where you see a lot of growth. And how do I know about this? Go daily. Please go to daily and check out the TradeVSA dashboard. We have a sector analysis. And those of you who haven't got an account yet, please create an account and go in and look at these sectors every day. If you don't just follow me on Wednesday, then you're able to find out what sector seems to be ongoing. I think that's something very common that you can do, and it's good to also to follow that. So you look at the FDI and continue to go up, but net effect, we're still coming down. All right, now one of the worrying reduced FDI to Malaysia, and this is quite true. I was talking to an economist, and he said that one of the foreign funds refused to come to Malaysia is this thing 50 days. Okay, the 50 days public holiday. I mean, if you put into account of the also 2 weeks holidays, then you got almost 60 days. And today, right at the newspaper, they were talking about maternity leave, right, from 60 days to 98 days. That's almost 100 days. So you think of it, 100 days, 50 day, 10 days, 60 plus another 100. So 260 days already. Wow. I mean, if you are mother, I'm sorry, nothing against being sexist in here. That's a very worrying problem. I mean, our country is not well developed. We don't have social security like we do in US. And you have, I don't think we have in the 50 days, maybe slightly lower. But if you count in all the civil servant, plus that, you got almost 260 days. 50 plus 100, that's 150 plus that's 160 days. You got 360 days, only 200 days, and you take off the weekends. This, productivity are going to be very low. So that's really impact. So if you are a foreign fund in so-called factory, when you come to Malaysia, you got to consider those, because you still need to pay salary. And one of the reasons why you can see this is on the right hand side, which I talk about a lot. You can't see on this side here, apologize for that one, but you do see Malaysia is 4.2 here. And until now, the shrinking GDP growth is a good predictor of hard time which is coming. That's what Myanmar, Laos, Cambodia, Philippines, Vietnam, they are all way ahead of Malaysia, right? And this is things I find very sticky for Malaysia. The SPV 2030, we do a lot of things, but the FDI is not coming in much more than it. So some of these policies, you cannot appeal to being populist. At the same time, you want foreign funds to come in, you want jobs to be created, but you must also do the balancing of the population in here. Right here, you can see, we are going into difficult times. No doubt about it, we cannot run away from this, right? So difficult times, expect it, but that's what the section 2, what we call recession-proof your career is very important. And this is something that I did back 10 years ago. So tonight I'm going to share with you how you can also do that too. Now, next, the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, which is the sort of like the global banks, they have cut the global to 3.3, even a bit lower too, depending which report you read to. Now, Malaysia is committed to cutting fiscal deficit to 3.4, which is in the past we about 3.8. One of the reasons why we do that is to preserve the credit rating. Now, a lot of our sovereign bonds are actually sold out and sold to foreigner, okay? And if our credit ratings were to drop, then we have to pay more for interest rates. So that's one of the reasons why we're trying to maintain a good credit rating, so we have cost savings from not paying too much interest. That's all boiled down to controlling the cost. As I said before, early on, the government is a lot focused on cost and spending, controlling costs and controlling spending, and looking for revenue, how to grow where. Right, we try to limit the government debt and liability to 75% of GDP growth. And one of the things that we talked about was also the legacy, which I believe Lim Guan Eng's favorite subject, okay, the finance minister, of the 1 MDB total loss of 150 billion to what we have in our Malaysian foreign reserve, around 100 billion plus and minus, and 1.4 trillion GDP in 2018. Now, we do remember some of the statistics in here we want to share with you is that if you look at it, 28 billion is payout as pension annually. So what does that mean? It means that, our country is really running no money, right? At the same time, this is where the SPV 2030 talk about the projection growth, 4.3, 4.8. If we continue to grow there for 10 years, we will reach high income wealth. Sorry, I have to say, ladies and gentlemen, the mathematics is not correct. I got to agree, I think on the newspaper, which is on that, Najib was right. You need to grow around the 6 to 6.5, which is in tandem of the Vision 2020. Right, we need to grow higher. 4.3, 4.8 is just running. It's not even running. You're actually crawling, right? But you're not flat out, That's what we need to. We need to grow more. And the policies that are coming out, and also the education that is coming out, something need to be done much quick. Else, I think coming to the next general election, this is another area of policy addressing. Now, next, this is from the Bank Negara report, the impact of the US-China trade war. Last round that we had, we did see a dip. Now, this is the world trade, okay? A world trade and a world growth. So that's why they are reducing the forecast. Just remember, right? 3.3. Right now, it's around around here at 3.7, 2.9. Potential trade impact. Then the world world trade will drop from 4 to 2.9. That's almost a 1% drop. Okay, 3.7 to 2.9. That's what they're saying. Like 3.7 to 2.9. They're focusing to 3.3. Depending as you go on every week, they're focusing lower. So what does that mean? That means as the US-China trade war drags on, and now you have the impeachment, called the impeachment crap, which I'm following it. That's what I also posted on the Facebook. The impeachment thing, it's going to be a long way going when the Senate, okay, which is the Senate, which is controlled by the Republican, and the House Congress is controlled by the Republicans. So you have the Senate controlled by the Democrats. Sorry, the Senate is controlled by the Democrats, and you have the House, which is controlled by the Republican, and both they're going to be fighting to get this impeachment goes on. But I don't think it's going to be possible. Impeachment is not likely because the House and the Senate, which controlled by both sides, because Democrat has lost out in the House, but they're controlling the Senate. This is where you get a lot of the so-called crony of Donald Trump, which will definitely do whatever it can to protect them. So you're not likely to see impeachment. What they do, Nancy Pelosi, coming in from a House standpoint, a House of the Congress, from the Democrats, intend to disrupt a lot of Donald Trump rallying, which we will see in coming November. 2020, the re-election in there. So going in there, this is going to be, the market's going to be choppy. Now on the point where we'll see potential recession or not, now that's going to be tough. We have to see what's going to happen coming from now to December. So continue to follow me on our monthly meeting. So this is where I intend to update you more what's going on into the market. Now also, if you look at the Bank Negara report, this is as of July, we are seeing the good spillover effect right back in June here. All right, in June, we have 3.4% down in terms of export. Now, remember, in terms of Malaysia, that's where we are, right? A mineral export, that's going to be Linus. That's why you see the Pakatan Harapan not really willing to give up, despite the big protest that we see on the line, because there's a lot of revenue going out there, you know, and you still need to pay minister, you know. So the semiconductor export plus the non-EE export. The non-EE export is pretty small. So net effect, we are doing back in 1.7, right? So if you look back at the market, way back in, this was in so-called October 2018, that was one of the best export at that time last year. And since then, do you all remember when the trade war started? Anyone? If you do, you know, the trade war started way back in May 2018, you can see the impact now is coming in there. But, you know, I do see coming in for this coming month of August, we will see higher export because a lot of the sanctions in China is being bringing. But one of the things also you do notice is the wages in China are getting more expensive. So some of these are spilling over to Cambodia. Cambodia and Vietnam are the two best places now. Even we are losing out in terms of the automotive industry, right? Malaysia is losing out. So talk about even the third nation project. That is really a laugh. Okay, so going to budget 2020. First task, the finance minister, is to increase the government coffer. No increase in personal tax or decrease, that's for sure. They're not going to increase it, although everybody, including myself, I also want to decrease, pay less tax. I'm sure all of you want to too, okay? Then no change in LGBT, the real property gain tax. There's a lot of surpluses in unsold home in various states, so that's going to continue because they're trying to sell this more to the foreigners. Have we seen a lot on the Minister of Housing and Development? Next, also the inflation is stabilized, all right, around the 1.5, 1.7, depending where you look at it. So it's not really a big concern in here, but it's better to have a slightly milder inflation rather than stagflation, okay? Minimum wages currently still stand at 1,100 ringgit, although NGOs wanted to raise it. I don't think it's likely to be addressed, right? And also the improve of the fair petrol pricing mechanism. You know, I think countries are trying to reduce the petrol subsidy right now, and by doing a fair pricing, which is, you know, transparency, the petrol prices going to go up. No doubt the petrol prices are holding above $60 after the drone attack we saw about 3 weeks ago in there, and it hit about 66. I did talk about potential going higher, but guess what? The Saudis came back in and started to pump almost immediately the next day. They say 50% the oil supply is disrupted. Next day say no problem, they just turn it on, boleh jalan. Now one of the biggest world exporter today is not Saudi, as a matter of fact, it's actually United States, to the shale gas that they have back in Texas, because they improved the technology on the oil and gas, right? So they're able to suck more oil out. Even the state of Texas is one of the biggest producer compared to the Saudis. So no longer the Saudis, huh? So continue on increasing the coffer, which means they need to increase potentially is the soda tax and alcoholic beverages, right? And they might go after the cigarettes, but cigarettes already dead. The cigarettes, all the e-cigarette now, and many of them do all this vaping. We have seen it in the media. That's a huge danger to those people. It's like inhaling toxic gas, But the point is, can they go after and get a revenue from them? I doubt it, because many of them operate in terms of underground, so there are more resources is needed. And when you catch many of these small fries, what can you do with them, right? So latest one, as I said before, the SPV 2030, the Share Prosperity Vision, a lot of handout to the B40. But I think there's even more, and this is only talk about the new Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim coming in for next year, if and only. So you do hear that yes, they don't want to, they want to extend it for another 3 more years. So all this is taking a lot of uncertainty. Then from the Pakatan side, they want to come in and take over. But the budget 2020, it's going to be shed a bit of lining. There's going to be some light at the end of the tunnel. But definitely my personal feeling, the new Prime Minister must take control next year, going forward where we are. It doesn't look very rosy. Also, the Sabah and Sarawak spending and the demands they intend to. There's talk about in Sarawak said that if you don't pay us a 20% royalty, no more oil, so-called pumping. They cannot drill any more oil. So that's a lot of demand from the Sabah and Sarawak. So they still have to address it too. Longer age of working and extending beyond 60. And incentive, and if you're above 60 years old, I think that's a blessing, because you still have to work. Okay, so Swilo, when I see you end of the month, we'll talk more about working beyond your retirement, which is one of our coaches in there.